Hello everybody. This video does not actually have a sponsor, but instead, it's just me shamelessly plugging my new merchandise site. It is no longer brickymerch.com. In fact, it is now orchid8.com, and we are launching the whole new site with a whole new look and some brand new products, specifically the B-Mote tee and hoodie. It's got the cute little D emote B on the front, both in the shirt and hoodie form, but on the back, a big old checkerboard of all of the awesome emotes that we currently have on Twitch, and hopefully coming soon to memberships on YouTube. Along with this, we got some restocks. A couple things that were out of stock before have now been brought back in stock, and overall, there's a whole new site. It's looking a hell of a lot better. It's a lot easier to navigate, and so if you want to check that out, it's called orchid8.com. You can find in the description, and to launch
Orchid 8 anymore. Is that
old? Place is 10% off for the next week. So if you want to grab something, every single thing on there is 10%. Go ahead and snag it, and let's continue with the actual video.
Guys, okay, what if we do you guys know if they have like plushies of like the Imperial Fist? Because I would get like an Imperial Fist plushie. I would like to get an emotional support Imperial Fist. That'd be fun. You definitely do. I hope they do. I couldn't find any the last time I checked. Let the man sell his bag. Yeah, we don't skip ads around here because if we're watching their content for free, the least we can do is watch the ads too.
Hello everybody, my name is Bricky, currently running from the law for selling 2.4 terabytes of Commander Shadow Sun pornography. And today we are talking Warhammer, not the Warhammer I just explained, and not even the Warhammer on the tabletop, but in fact, Warhammer in media and video games. Two things that you generally don't see a whole lot of. Warhammer video games are not something I would call rare. Good Warhammer video games are more rare than a humble Craft Worlds player. Naturally, Warhammer games are really difficult to translate as video games from the universe. One, because of the insane varying levels of power. Like, how can a civilian take on a guardsman trained since birth, take on a space marine, take on a custodian, take on a tyrannid like tyrannocyte or just a gigantic tyrannid monster, which then takes on an imperial knight and an emperor class titan and a tyrannid bio titan, and then you get into the insane levels of the fleets and the naval battles, and it's just a whole new level. Having that all come together and fight each other is already ridiculous enough, but then you can't do a whole lot with the narrative either, because having different influxes of character motivation doesn't really happen in Warhammer. Everyone is so devout to either their cause or they just aren't thinking, as in things like Tyranids and Orcs that have only a singular goal. But then you have the Imperium, and when you're in the Imperium, you can't go around being like, you know, maybe chaos ain't that bad. If you're not 100% Emperor's Graces, fully zealotous, then you get shot in the head. So having any kind of like fall from grace or character motivations where they kind of go against their government and the masses doesn't really happen. So naturally, unless you're doing some kind of like soldiers and brothers in arms story, or maybe like a detective story, i.e. Eisenhorn kind of books with the Inquisitor, it's kind of hard to make a lot of content for it. So through all that turmoil though, there are some pretty good ones, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of rank, but mainly just discuss the top 5 Warhammer video games, as well as talk about 3 pieces of Warhammer media that I think you should probably check out if you're a fan of it at all, and they come from different backgrounds, so I think it'll be interesting. First off, let's do that Warhammer media part, because that's a lot easier to cover.
I like your hat, by the way.
First up is the Astartes fan film. If you haven't seen Astartes,
we've seen that.
Come on, what are you doing? I'm sure you have, because it's got millions of views, but for that like one person down there in the comment section is like, oh, I hadn't seen Astartes. It's like, good, watch it. It's amazing. It's a 5-part little series made by, I think, pretty much one guy. Maybe he has some friends, but I think it's only the one guy. And he made a little fan film about some space marines going and securing some kind of cargo from either some kind of PMC or heretic cultists. I'm thinking it's a PMC. They didn't look fucked up enough. It's not just a simple like, marines punching elves or punching orcs. It's got a little bit more intrigue to it, and it's a lot more subtle, which I like a lot. It also does a great job at adapting the lore. For a large majority of it, at least in a large majority of games, Space Marines kind of just like walk into battle, doing like a Chad stride, thinking they're so fucking hot shit. When in reality, if you think about a legitimate war zone or something, the Space Marines, while they do look cool walking in, which they do sometimes, they're a lot faster. They run incredibly quickly. They're constantly spoken that nothing that big should run that quick, and they're very tactical. They take positions. They have orders. They have not just bolt guns and giant thunder hammers and stuff, there is the good old Astartes combat knife. And it's nice to see all that stuff represented in a much more, I say realistic, it's Warhammer, but a realistic way. Pretty much all these things will be in the description, so you know, but definitely worth checking out. It's not too long. Go look at it. Secondly, we actually have a Warhammer film. Now, Warhammer movies, there are a couple of them, and unfortunately, they pretty much all suck. Any of the ones that you might think, oh, it was okay, it's not. It's probably just we have none of them, so the fact that we have anything that has like a little bit of effort put into it, you're like, oh, it's all right, when in reality, it's pretty terrible. It's like really big Resident Evil fans that like the Resident Evil movies. Like, they're not good movies, but they can be dumb fun sometimes, I get it. However, the best Warhammer film is not even a Warhammer film. Now, there's a film called Event Horizon. It's in 1997 by Paul W.S. Anderson, I believe was the director. Now, speaking of Resident Evil, he directed a lot of the Resident Evil films, as well as I think Alien vs. Predator and a few other things. I don't particularly consider him a fantastic director. I think most of his movies are kind of mediocre. That being said, Event Horizon scratches that perfect Warhammer deep space sci-fi horror itch.
Does it really?
If you want to take Dead Space, Alien, and a bit of Warhammer and mash it together, you have Event Horizon. And the whole purpose of the story is it's far future, and there was a ship of the name of the movie, and that ship was in the orbit of Neptune and just disappeared. And then, like 4 years later, it's back. No one knows why. So you're gonna go investigate it. And it is exactly that. It apparently was a big inspiration for the first Dead Space game, and it makes a lot of sense when you do watch the film, but it's very creepy. It's got that awesome part where, you know, not only is there a danger, but you also the danger of space and all the issues that space comes with. It's not perfect. There are some character motivations or character actions in the first third that I really don't like, and the effects don't always hold up, but for a Warhammer film, it is the best non-intentional Warhammer movie you're probably gonna get for many years. And last but not least, we have the Emperor Text-to-Speech series on YouTube. Now, a lot of people asked me when I made my video a bit ago about Warhammer YouTubers why I didn't mention him, mainly because I wanted to save it for this video. The Text-to-Speech series is a very cute concept. It is just a little Warhammer YouTube episode series where the Emperor gets a text-to-speech device implemented into his body, and now he can speak to the Captain General Custodian, nicknamed Kitten, because it turns out all the custodians have turned into a gay orgy because they've been stuck there for so long, which, because of that, provides the rarest thing since fucking Bigfoot: an actually good JoJo meme.
Oh no!
Holy shit. What in the name of Terra on fucking roller skates is this?
God bless him, he's done the impossible. It's very cute watching this series because it provides a lot of things. It's obviously a comedy, and it's meant to be, but it's a comedy from someone who actually understands Warhammer lore, and in a sense, it's definitely not something you should take as gospel, but it does have this like over-the-top style for most of the characters. For instance, in this series, you have a whole bunch of Mechanicus guys, and they fuck toasters. Do they actually fuck toasters in the lore? No, but they are crazed techno people.
I choose to believe that, though.
Vulcan is a super nice guy who runs around hugging people. Does he do that in the lore? No. But the Salamanders are known to be a much nicer and caring chapter compared to most Space Marines. Magnus is a Yu-Gi-Oh loving nerd. Is he actually? No, he's just a fucking nerd. It's wonderful. It's very funny, and I would highly recommend it. And you do maybe need to slog through the first couple of episodes because they are a bit older and lower budget, but as time goes on, they get really good, especially after episode like 10-ish. And they're pretty short in the beginning. They get longer later on, so highly recommend. Give it a watch. It's very funny. And with that being said, let's move on to some Warhammer video games.
Who are you speaking to, Father?
Damn it, Rogo. Shall close that cavity in your skull before
don't
it
hate
vomits forth
Rogo.
more agglomerations of vexing questions.
My skull yields no hollow rock formation, Father.
Starting
He's just a guy. Why do they hate him?
us off at number 5 for Warhammer video games, we have Space Hulk Deathwing. Now,
Okay.
Space Hulk Deathwing is a fine kind of Left 4 Dead style game. You play as 4 separate Terminators, and that's what, you know, Deathwing is. I believe it's Dark Angels chapter, if I'm not particularly mistaken. But you start as Terminators, and you are exploring a Space Hulk. And a Space Hulk is basically a big old derelict ship that's gone dark for God knows what reasons. Demons, Tyranids, who knows. So you kind of go through your little Left 4 Dead style thing. You kill a whole bunch of Tyranids, utilizing a whole bunch of weapons, and that's kind of your game. Personally, I don't think Space Hulk is a particularly amazing game. I think it's good for a good 10 to 15 hours of fun, and then it gets a little bit repetitive and you kind of get tired of it. But visually, it's very well done. The look of the plasma and your power swords and your flamers and the way the Tyranids attack you and all, it looks very good. I like the very Warhammer style aesthetic and the music, and they nail that pretty well. I do think it's a solid time for a short time, but I wouldn't buy it at any kind of full price. I'd get it if you could find it on sale for maybe $5 and grab a few Warhammer friends. I'd argue that it's at least worth a little bit of your time. I don't think it's particularly amazing, but like I said before, Warhammer games are not particularly amazing as a whole. So I'm kind of breezing through this one just because it's not a fantastic title, but it's worth at least trying, at least checking out a little bit.
Okay.
At number 4, we have Warhammer Space Marine.
My
now,
beloved.
Space Marine is a very fun game that I think people think a little bit too highly of. It's enjoyable and a little more streamlined. So if you're just a kind of a regular casual gamer, you want to play a fun game, and you don't even care it's in the Warhammer universe, you probably still enjoy this. It's a third-person shooter combined with a kind of beat-em-up hack and slash.
Okay, yeah, that's
More
me.
of a beat-em-up
Just a
kind of style
basic
game
dude.
where you go around blasting a whole bunch of orcs that have invaded some kind of Imperial planet, and you also smack them in the face with power swords and stuff. And it's pretty damn satisfying at times. The gameplay loop is by far the best part of this game. It does not ever get old to run up and plasma pistol 3 orcs in the face and then just start beating the ass crap out of them with a whole bunch of Space Marine weapons. It is super fun, it's satisfying, and all the sound effects really give you that nice, like, crunchy, hardcore Warhammer feel. At this point, you might as well just kind of have your streamlined action game because it works out better with the lore. What's the job? Kill the alien. Cool. The orcs definitely steal the show, I'd say. There's a little bit of chaos in there as well, but the orcs are by far more fun. They have that stupid, like, over-the-top cock.
Not Leandro's doing fucky shit in the back. I see you, Leandros. Motherfucker.
In the accent with a whole bunch of the green skins, that it's always funny. The orc war boss in particular is actually, I think, a very, very fun character. I like him quite a bit.
Okay, shit, what if we play this?
So easy to kill.
And overall, the game looks very good. I like the Gothic tech factories that they do. It's kind of hard to pull off, and they did a pretty good job. I think my only downside is that it does have a lot of the early 2000s syndrome when it comes to video games.
Okay,
and by
what does that
I mean
mean?
Extremely railroading linear areas and tons of QuickTime events. Tons. And if you've played the game, you know there are some really egregious QuickTime events in certain very important parts of the game that shall remain nameless. Overall, I think people put it a little bit too high on a pedestal. It's a very digestible game. It's good for a large amount of audiences, but it's not amazing. It's not wonderful. But it's kind of like, hey, this is what we're gonna get, and we're getting a pretty okay product. I'll take solid and streamlined over bad and faithful. For number 3, we have Battlefleet Gothic 1 and 2.
Okay.
Now, a lot of these games I haven't played a ton of, I'll be totally honest, because this kind of gameplay style isn't entirely my cup of tea. That being said, I am getting a lot of this recommendation via osmosis and asking various other Warhammer fans what they thought of the games. Personally, 2 sticks out the most because it opens with one of the biggest events in Warhammer history, which is the Fall of Cadia. And naturally, as a big Guard player myself, the Fall of Cadia is probably my favorite, like, event in the Warhammer history. It kind of has, like, the Avengers Endgame feel to it, where, you know, if you go watch Endgame, we can probably all agree that Endgame isn't quite as good as Infinity War, but everyone's here. It's a big collaboration, and because of that, it feels very exciting and fun. Even if it's not perfectly well told, it's still very enjoyable. That's basically what the Fall of Cadia is. It has everything. You've got Saint Celestine, Belisarius Call, Lord Castellan Creed, as well as a whole bunch of other major characters like Abaddon the Spoiler, Tor Garadon, the Imperial Fists, and let's not forget the resurrection of Rowboat Gurlaman with the help of Yvraine, and a mysterious man known as Trazen the Infinite, which almost saved Cadia, which is a huge turn of events. Everyone was there, and it's a very exciting story, even if it's not always the best written. But
okay, that sounds really interesting. I have seen the gameplay. I probably won't be playing the game because it's not my playstyle, but I would 100% be down to watch the cinematics of it. I don't know if I play the game though, because it's really not my style of gameplay though. That's the thing. But yeah. This seems very interesting. I'll take note of this for next time.
It opens with that, and the cinematics for it are really good. The music, the narrator just is fantastic.
And for every one of those 10,000 years, the fortress world of Cadia has held the gate closed. An adamantium bastion, granted strength by flesh and bone, and seeded purpose by faith in the Emperor's holy light.
It's hilarious to hear her name off the warship vessel of the orcs, the Mordaka Prime, with just a completely straight face.
Survivors from the rechristened Mordaka Prime.
Overall, I'd say the story, especially the voice acting, is really good. In fact, that's a major point we'll talk about later is voice acting, because my final 2 games are also really good on that as well. However, this game is not about your average Warhammer stuff. It's not about little dudes on battlefield. This is a naval fleet battle, which I would say does go a little bit underappreciated. The naval battles of the 41st millennium are very important, and they have these giant Gothic spire ships for the Imperium. You've got the creepy Necron stuff, the high fleets of the Tyranids, the jumbled together mess that is orc war vehicles. It's very interesting to see this thing kind of fleshed out more. The gameplay, however, is much more of a tactical, slow-paced things about rotations and shields and all that kind of attack formations and things like that I'm not overly interested in.
Yeah.
However, the music, the voice acting, and also the large swath of people you can play as between the Necrons and the Imperium and the Eldar and such does really make it a good recommendation, I'd argue.
Ooh.
And everyone tells me it's also a wonderful game, so I wanted to go ahead and mention it because there aren't many great Warhammer games, and I do feel like this one in particular does deserve a recommendation. Moving on over for number 2, we have the Dawn of War games. Now, I decided to combine the 2 of them into one slot because they're both the same group, and honestly, they're both kind of the same game, with some adjustments. Dawn of War is an RTS-style game, and it probably is the game genre that fits the Warhammer universe the best. It's a lot easier to balance out the insanity of all the different kinds of units when you have something like an RTS that allows you to do that, as opposed to, say, a first-person shooter or something. Now, Dawn of War 1 is showing its age a little bit, right?
We might think about Dawn of War again. I don't know if I could like get used to RTS style games. If I decide that like Dawn of War really isn't my cup of tea, then we'll just watch the cinematics.
Right now, but so are a lot of these games. And it's a more traditional RTS. You start off with commands, and you have workers, and you create all these different kinds of structures that provide to you resources, and that allows you to build units, go capture stuff, kill the enemy. Pretty standard RTS fare. It also boasts a huge selection of armies, everything from the Guard to the Necrons to the Orcs, and then you have the Sisters, and there's a nice combination. For Dawn of War 2, however, it's still an RTS, but it's a lot more of a squad-based tactics game. There's no base building of any kind, and instead you control a major hero that can be revived, and you start building out different kinds of units and tech trees as you unlock more and more by capturing requisition points and trying to win in like a hold the objective style game, which I think does translate well now that we're in 9th edition Warhammer, and objective control is the major point of that game as well. Dawn of War 2 still looks incredible. It's like, it looks beautiful. I love the animations. I love the color scheme. It's got a little more bloom, but I don't know, I don't really mind that. And it's really nice to see all the different sound effects and the voice acting. And the voice acting of Dawn of War 1 and 2 is so stupidly over the top. It's so bombastically ridiculous that I cannot imagine it being anything else. If it was in any other game, it wouldn't work. But when you've got voice acting like this, it's fantastic.
Is that good?
Orcs. And where there's one, there's 100 of them.
Come, show me what passes for fury among your misbegotten kind.
Ooh.
Do the deaths of your soldiers mean so little to you? Are you that mad?
Do the
Damn.
deaths of yours mean so much to you, alien? Are you that weak?
Our task here is too important to let one such as you derail it.
Ooh.
Did you say something, Eldar? I couldn't hear for all that hot air you's blowing.
Your infantilism is boundless, Orc.
And she still won't shut it.
You have made quite a name for yourself looting the petty lords of this subsector. You have also been known as a mercenary under their employ.
I? What's that to you? Why, you cat and your boys here. You're one of those inquisitive type thingies. I
Damn.
thought yous were more for killing orcs than paying them. I like your hat, by the way.
And I really do think it's one of the biggest highlights of it, because it really puts you in that universe. And you combine the really good music. It's wonderful. They both also have a wonderful modding scene as well. Dawn of War 1 has the Ultimate Apocalypse mod, which is basically like, hey, okay, in the game you had the Baneblade, now you've got 14 Baneblades. You got the Hellhammer, the Shadow Sword, etc. Now you can have Emperor Titans and Imperial Knights. You can now build Death Strike nuclear missiles, and the Tyranids are in there. Here's your Hierophant Bio Titan. Here's your Orc Stompa. You can just build this insane amount of units, and it's way more fleshed out in the actual lore, so you can grab basically anything you want. Whereas there's also a mod for Dawn of War 2 called, I believe, the Elite mod that I found out because I was watching a guy named Indrid Casts. He cast Dawn of War 2 like pro matches, which I think is really interesting because you have these like 3v3 battles with all these different factions, and some factions that I don't believe were actually in the game originally either, and they're a lot more fleshed out. They had a lot more intrigue and interest, and it really is nice to watch, actually. It's surprisingly deep for a game like that, with the cover system and how you move characters and their special abilities. It's impressive. In fact, Dawn of War 1 actually has a pretty fantastic campaign. In fact, almost all the expansion packs have fantastic campaigns, besides one of them. Dawn of War 2 has some decent campaign moments, but Dawn of War 1 is really the good shit, all right? It has some really good characters, it has some really nice campaign moments, and it is by far worth playing. If you're curious about either of these games, I would recommend watching the Dawn of War 1 Ultimate Apocalypse review by Mandalore Gaming, or checking out Indrid Casts for those Dawn of War 2 games as well. See which one's more your style. I think I like the look and the feel of Dawn of War 2 better, but I do enjoy the gameplay, like the more traditional RTS of Dawn of War 1, so I'm a little bit back and forth. But both games are pretty much the epitome of Warhammer content to cover multiple factions, lots of different units, and get the most inclusive Warhammer game in terms of all the variety as you possibly can. Finally, last but not least, we have Warhammer Mechanicus. I would argue Mechanicus is the best Warhammer game currently on the market right now. It is #1. The only reason you might consider Dawn of War better is because it has more of the things you might want. Mechanicus is much more streamlined. You play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, and you are an Archmagos, I don't know how it's pronounced, Magos, and you have stumbled upon a Necron tomb world. And your job, go look at it, purify it, exterminate it, do whatever you can, and finish off the Necrons.
I thought this was us being a space robber.
And you gotta get the hell out of there. If I were to tell you a bullet point list of what makes it great, I can imagine all of you thinking to yourself, oh shit, why haven't I played this yet? Well, first off, it's an XCOM style game. So you have top-down view moving in different units, certain spaces, and they have special hits. However, unlike XCOM, no random chance. If you can shoot it, you're gonna hit it. It's a Darkest Dungeon style game where each
Okay.
encounter is moving through a little bit like section of the tomb world that has different special things that you have, like symbols and random encounters and the random chance kind of stuff that some people hate, but it doesn't really bug me that much. Some are good, some are bad. You build a party up. You've got a class-based system to upgrade your tech priests. You can bring different other kinds of minions like servitors, cataphrons, or maybe Skitari vanguards and rangers.
Okay.
You've got all these different kinds of upgrades and new weapons you can unlock, and by working through the different people of your cohort, you can talk to one of the characters that's really big on saving her troops. You've got one guy who's the religious aspect of the Mechanicus, who constantly like speaks sermons and crap, and then you have the really techno diddly boy who's, or is that a girl? They all represent a different part of the Mechanicus, and it's just really impressive. And the sound design and the visuals and the music, oh my god, the music.
Damn, wait, that beat's kind of fire. I can't ever say I've played like a game like this before, so when I try, it's gonna be a learning experience for sure.
And even the Necrons are so well fleshed out. The Necrons are Necrons. They have reanimation protocols. They have scarabs that help heal people. They have Gauss and Tesla weaponry. Everything from your teeny little Canoptic Scarab to your Triarch Praetorian and a Destroyer Lord. There are some scary stuff in that goddamn tomb. And the Necrons do not fuck around. And in fact, in a weird way, it actually provides one of my favorite parts of the game, which is the voice acting.
They could? Then let's collab for 12 hours. We gotta do it. Ooh. Most tech priests do not give it a second thought. Oh. Yeah,
now, for your main cohort, you don't have voice acting. You have like, I feel bad calling it gibberish because it's obviously way cooler than gibberish, but it's some kind of like, I don't know, low Gothic binary speaking or something. But that gives it, not only saves money on voice acting, but it has its own really nice flavor to it. But then soon you realize that the Necrons actually do have voice acting. The major Necron characters speak English.
What virtue do your kind have?
Oh.
Deserving of anything but extinction.
And that got me thinking a little bit, like, the Mechanicus believe that flesh is weak, and they strip themselves of it the best they possibly can in order to, you know, transcend, to remove their weakness and everything from their actual flesh to even their mind. The Necrons were dragged into biotransference against their will and became robotic slaves. And they're the ones that speak English. In an odd turn of fate, the Mechanicus, because they don't speak English, are more alien than the Necrons are, which I just think is so fucking cool. If I had to have any downsides to Mechanicus, it's that the opening is a bit too hard and the ending is a bit too easy. The opening can be pretty brutal, and then as you get going, it becomes a little bit too easy and you start to steamroll. Honestly, it's an incredibly good game. It's the best Warhammer game on the market, both in terms of polish, being very faithful to the lore, and having great intrigue and design. Everyone should play it. Even if you don't care about Admech and Necrons, everyone should play it. I love it. Go check it out. Okay, and that's it for me. This has been 5 Warhammer games that